Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Mistress of the Damned. I am your Mistress Katrina. If you are new here, welcome. Always happy to have new people with us. This is where I am reading through my enormous library of books that's currently in the process of being boxed up because I'm putting in hardwood floors. I'm letting you know what I'm thinking of the enormous library of books that I'm reading my way through very slowly. So if you like books, you aren't sure what to read next, hit that subscribe button, like and share my videos, leave me some recommendations in the comments. I'm always looking for new things to read. Even though I have plenty, always willing to take on more projects. This week's book is The Right Side of History by Ben Shapiro. Now, I don't always agree with everything Mr. Shapiro says, but I do feel he has been unfairly maligned by wackadoos on both the extreme right and the extreme left, and I'm utterly fascinated by how fast his mind works, so I kind of wanted to see what he had to say in book form. And at first I wasn't too sure, all right? I'm still actually, I think, even after the fact and after going through and picking out my quotes for the weeks and everything else, I'm still a little ambivalent. I'm not quite sure what to make of it, which I guess is a good thing, right? Anything that leaves you thinking after you're done reading it has left an impression, and that's always a good thing. So that's kind of where I'm at here. When I started it, I was pretty sure it was going to be a God lecture based on the first couple of chapters, and I was a little leery of that. Zealots make me nervous. They make me twitchy. And while Mr. Shapiro has never been shy about broadcasting his faith as an Orthodox Jew, I never really saw him as a zealot. So when he started in with God lectures and God talks, I got nervous right off the bat. But when I shifted my perspective to read it more as a history book, and it's kind of a very broad overview of history, but it is a history of Western civilization, which by any honest metric, and that honest is a key word there, that includes a Judeo-Christian belief system. And once you put it in the perspective of a history book that includes the Judeo-Christianity from which the wellspring of Western civilization came, it's easier to read through and to see the points he's trying to make. Now, from the perspective of a history book, is very broadly written. It is a fast read. It's 250 pages thereabouts. Let's start by explaining that there are essentially two schools of thought that helped shape Western civilization, which, as near as I can tell, is accurate. Okay, we have the Judeo-Christian belief system, which kind of created a moral compass for the Western half of the planet, and the philosophical schools in ancient Athens, which is where reason and logic come from. And I know that there are people out there who are going to listen to that or read the book or listen to Mr. Shapiro or not even listen to him. Just hear his name and break out into frothing masses of anger that Western civilization was so terrible. But there is no part of history that's 100% awesome and glorious and good. Okay? None. All right. I've read quite a bit of history, and not just Western history. I've read books on Genghis Khan and on communism. Hey, that was memorable, right? I read books on history in Africa and Egypt. Oddly enough, not as much on South America. So I feel like there's a gap in my education that I should explore. But the end result is the history of mankind globally is blood-drenched. All right. Trying to say that it's all the fault of white man is grossly inaccurate on every measure. Okay? Anyways, this book is on the positive aspects of Western civilization and on how we kind of brought about our own downfall because we were so open-minded to new ideas. Boy, I went off on a rant there. Tangent. Judeo-Christianity and the philosophical schools of ancient Athens. And that is accurate, okay? And that's the lovely thing about history, is that history is, in fact, set in stone. This is what happened, no matter how much people try to rewrite it through the lens of modernity. There are a lot of people trying to rewrite it to make it worse than it was, which is interesting because the bad that happened was plenty bad without making it any worse. Mr. Shapiro makes a pretty passionate defense of the good of the West and his ideas regarding how the West was built. He then goes on to explain the philosophies that began our degeneration to where we are now, which is nowhere good, right? Things are getting very heated and very ugly here in the West. Everybody is kind of entrenching and digging in their little feet and insisting that they're right, and everybody else is wrong, and that's... No one wins when we do that, guys. The complete insanity that encompasses the political extremes are completely detrimental to logic and reason on both sides. And no joke, when I listen to somebody on the alt-right rant about how Jews own the banks, God, or people on the left who screech, check your privilege, you're a white woman. Yeah, right here, baby. I blank out, and I tend to look at them like, oh, you're a moron, which is a totally unhelpful response to have. Logic and reason should be able to pull people back to the center where reality dwells. Damn, do I not have the energy to argue with stupid people. And they aren't interested in logic and reason anyway. They're interested in digging in their little feet and entrenching themselves and being right. Back to the book. Mr. Shapiro does an admirable job breaking down when exactly logic began to falter. Not just logic, but God. Okay? And I think that is important. I'm not a Christian, but I do sense a very definite lack of spirituality and faith. And that's pretty sad. I think that more people become disconnected from the wellspring of creation, the more they falter in everything. He breaks down where logic and religion failed and how that failure in reason has kind of gained steam throughout the 20th and 21st centuries. But he doesn't just leave us in this downward spiral of depression, which is good because it's pretty depressing reading when he goes into it. He does point out that returning to logic and reason by way of God, I mean, God had to come into it somewhere. He is an Orthodox Jew, and again, not at all shy about pointing out his religion. There's a way out of this path of darkness. And I mean, he does have a point. I haven't been Christian for a very long time, but I did go through a period in my life where I was deeply agnostic, and I was genuinely unhappy that way. Belief in something, belief that something out there gives a damn, is better for me than the belief in nothing. So when I'm working my way back to faith, it's not easier. It's not easy, but I am a happier person for believing in something. Largely, the points that he has to make have to do with personal responsibility and community responsibility. He identifies that there are 4 traits that help to make one happy. And these were really integral to the book because he breaks down what they are, and he breaks down how the loss of these things have led us to where we're at now. So the first one is the necessity for individual moral purpose. Okay? We all have value as individuals. That value is meant to be extended to those around us by way of connection to a greater being. He, of course, calls it God, what have you, okay? Basically, by not believing in individual moral purpose, our own self-interest trumps everyone else. And there's certainly an argument to be made for anti-vaxxers here, right? People who don't want to get the COVID vaccine, that's very, very hot these days. You don't want to get that vaccine because, oh my God, it's been rushed through, and there's certainly a strong point to that. Are you really doing what's in your own best interest to the detriment of others? And that's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is when I say that I want something, for example, free healthcare. My desire for free healthcare would trump the rights of the doctors to get paid for their services, making slaves out of the doctor. Okay? And I know you're like, no, they'd be paid by the government. Like, yeah, that's efficient. As we learned a few weeks ago during Mao's Great Famine, the medical system went real quick when communism came in. Socialized medicine at the grand scale that would be required here in the United States, single-payer healthcare, is profoundly detrimental to individual moral purpose, okay? Because it would make slaves out of our medical community. Slavery, being inherently evil, has no place in the hearts of an individual with moral purpose. All right, slavery is evil. Make no mistake about that. And wanting to enslave somebody to your will to serve you because you want something for free is evil. All right? Individual capacity. That's his second thing that is needed for happiness. The belief that we can succeed in what we set our minds to. That with hard work and intent, we can succeed. That's individual capacity. And we're taking that away from people a lot. When we make victims out of an entire generation because that's what's in, it's cool to be a victim, right? It's cool to identify as somebody who has had your rights and freedoms and access taken away because of the color of your skin or your gender identity. When you make victims out of people and you get them to embrace that victim capacity, you're telling that victim identity, you're telling that they do not have the capacity to make their own life better. And that's evil. That is evil. Why would you tell somebody that they don't have the ability to make their own life better? What is wrong with you that telling them they're a victim is the best they can hope for in life? That's just evil. Communal moral purpose, right? So you have your individual moral purpose, your individual capacity. But it's not just you, right? We don't live in a vacuum. You don't live and breathe on your own. You have the people around you, the people you surround yourself with, and that's communal moral purpose. The knowledge that the community you surrounded yourself with has the same morals, that willingness to allow you to help yourself without suborning our needs to theirs, all right? The individual really does need to be at the top of that in order to embrace that freedom that is given to us by God or goddess or gods or whatever you believe in, okay? Community capacity. And Mr. Shapiro says this best, so I'm going to kind of copy that. Well, I'm going to quote this directly from his book. When government is both strong enough to protect against anarchy and limited enough to check its tendency towards tyranny, that's the community capacity. We've lost our community capacity here in the United States, okay? We saw that all last year with all of the riots. There was no protection against anarchy. The government lost its willpower to protect us against anarchy and has shown absolutely no desire to limit its tendency towards tyranny. It's just kind of running rampant, fast derailing us into a very dark era. With those thoughts in mind, I mean, can you see where we're breaking down as a society? If you're not already aware of it, if you haven't, you know, if you're one of those happily blissful people, remember, ignorance is bliss sometimes, right? If you're a happily blissful person who avoids all social media and doesn't watch the news, you might not be aware of this. But morality is fast fading. When everything becomes a right, then rights lose their values, as the mobs move to suborn freedoms of others to their collective purpose. Those are things we're losing in this wellspring of social justice activism, which is nothing. There's no meaning there. There's nothing to social justice activism. It's just a way of saying I'm going to scream louder. I'm going to scream louder than you do. And I'm going to drown out what you want by screaming over you. The smallest minority on the planet is the individual. Schools have been teaching victim mentality for decades, and the stronger your hand in victim poker, the less individual capacity you are meant to have. You are a victim. You don't have a capacity or ability. Moral purpose is no longer there. People no longer support the rights of others. That is fully encompassed in the phrase, I believe in freedom of speech, but. There's no but. If you don't support the rights of others, then you are part of the problem. I mean, community capacity, we're fast walking the roads toward tyranny, and we're doing it with our hands tied behind our back and blindfolds on, that kind of, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. That's what we're working towards, willingly, willfully. We're giving it up. We're letting people take us away from us, take away this great country that was built beautifully and left to us in treasure and trust, and we're destroying it, and we're letting it be destroyed, and we're not fighting back. And that is horrifying. That is truly horrifying. I mean, no wonder we're all so angry at each other. We're so angry. Our country is crumbling and everyone blames everyone else, when really all you have to do is look in the mirror. That's it for this week. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, share the video with friends and family, and I'll see you next week when I talk about Zen and the art of motorcycle maintenance. Bye.